how did you get here? Because you were taking private jets every day, working for a top 500 company, and then you had everything. Why did you feel like you had nothing? And especially in this society where we are being told that success is the private jet. Especially in this society of woman boss. Like, that's what they tell women. Stop cooking, stop having kids, dye your hair blue, and be a boss. Run all these guys, cut all those balls. Like, so you got there. You became her, the woman goddess of the capitalist society. How could you be successful and feel empty inside? What happened? Like, it didn't fulfill you? Like, was it the company that level of success didn't fulfill you? Or you felt the call? Or it was just that's not where I'm supposed to be?
Well, let me track back 10 years prior to 10 years ago. But before I do that, actually, I'm going to share that in yesterday's presentation, I showed a picture of myself from 10 years ago when I was in corporate. And I was already like this, I was a rising star, and, I was jet setting all around, just like you said, all that kind of stuff. And you can actually see when people saw the picture, first of all, most people didn't think it was me. And then once they actually realized it was me, they're like, oh. And I'll tell you, I don't even recognize myself. Like, you can physically see. And people in the audience, they said, "Oh my God, you look so much younger. You look 10 years younger than you looked 10 years ago. You everything." I mean, I was inflamed. I was like, in the picture, I'm smiling, but I was not smiling inside. So I had, like you said, I had collected all the gold stars. I had all the things. Thank you so much, Nuno. I had collected all the gold stars. I had all the things that people say that you're supposed to want to be happy. But let me track back 10 years before that, because I didn't have any of that. I didn't have the connections. I was not born with a silver spoon. I was brought up with a family of 5 kids, born in 6.5 years, living on the south side of Chicago. Can you still hear me? Because I froze.
Very well.
Okay.
Yeah,
living on the south side of Chicago, just literally, man. I mean, if you talk to my brothers, he's one of my bigger fans. My brother, and his wife, who's my best friend. They look at, when we look at like what we've done, we're like, whoa, I mean, all 5 of us, actually, all 5 of the siblings, but we didn't. I think it's that energy of like, you're seeking, but you can get really lost in that seeking. Like I had this sensation that I had something to prove, right? And I had to get there, and that once I got there, everything would be okay. That this sort of feeling of this void, this feeling of, that I wasn't. I think a lot of people suffer from the idea that they're not worthy. That it's like it's so deeply conditioned, I think, into a lot of us. So, I can only talk for myself, but what I can say is 10 years prior to getting to that 10 years ago, where I was this quote unquote success in the business world, I thought, okay, once I get there, I'm going to be good, because that's what they tell you. Once you get there, you're good. But to answer your question, I was not good. And so I was like, okay, damn, whose script is this? And I actually write about this in my first book. I'm like, whose script am I running? And how do I change that? Yeah.
You realize that the success that you were aiming for, yearning for, fighting for, was the success that society and TV, I guess, tells you, like, oh, success is the definition that we give you. And at a point you realize that success is actually yours to define. If success is
Oh yeah.
just having a kid in a cabin, living off the grid, and cutting wood and eating your own vegetable, if this is success, once you get that, it's perfect, and actually the rest of the world can view it as failure, but for you it is not. Where most of us are, we turn on the TV, we see the Kardashians, we're like, yeah, this is it. Or we see some rappers with gold chains and a twerking girlfriend, and we're like, yeah, this is it, or etc. Like, it's something that I've been saying before. You define your success, and we have a saying in Africa that says, if you don't know your direction, you don't know the direction of the wind either. And it's really that where you arrive to the upper echelon of corporate America, and you realize, I'm miserable. So what's next? Like what because we talking about upper echelon level, but we're also talking about upper echelon lifestyle. Taking a jet every day to go to a place, meet people who are etc., dining in special type of places, and getting a special type of salary as well. And then wearing the mask of the boss. How do you say fuck to all that?
I love you. That's awesome. That's such a good question. Well, I also want to go back for a second because,
Go ahead.
you talk about the Kardashians. That was pretty funny, actually, because I think I found people I think it was a year or two ago, they were saying something like the Kardashians. I'm like, who are you talking about? Who are these Kardashian people?
Oh my God, you didn't know about them?
I still don't know. If you put a picture of any one of these people in front of my, I have no idea who they are, because I disinvest my energy. I do not invest my energy where other people invest their energy. I don't do that. So that's one thing I will say that, like, actually, especially, and I've become better and better at this over the years, but I'm just like, okay, if everyone's running this way, I'm kind of going to go look over here. You know what I mean? I might run in the opposite direction. I'm just like, where, but I want to go back, because you said something that really, when you said defining success on your terms, what I want to tell people about that is, because I didn't know what that was for me. I really did believe that success meant that you had the great job. Like, whether we saw it on TV, whether we heard it from our parents, you and I were talking about this yesterday in the interview when you were talking about your parents, right? It's like, you got to be either a lawyer or a doctor. I had the same thing. I grew up, you got to be a lawyer or a doctor. Like, that's your choice, right? But it was because my parents didn't come from.
Wait a second. Just before you continue, we continue.
Okay.
So this is Chloe, Cortney, Kim, the mother, Chris, Kendall, and this is Kylie.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Right. I'll forget their faces in a second, but okay. I'm glad you got me the intro. At least I've seen them once.
It's important.
Is it now? That's hilarious. Okay, so success.
Yes.
I want to talk about this. I want to go into this, brother, because success, how you define it, and a lot of people struggle with this, and I know I did. One of my laws of living: be yourself, and I love that. Really nice. Be yourself. Exactly.
I would add to that. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So
success.
What I will say, though, is that people struggle with who am I? Like, be myself, right? Be myself. What does that even mean, right? And people really struggle with that. And all I will say to it that's really important, in that I understood somehow. I understood, and this is one of the reasons why I left that situation, was success is when what's inside of you is singing. Like your essence is singing when you are engaged in something that is what is success for you. So when you were 7, 8, and you were making you were, like, oh, I'm gonna make some music, right? That was success because that was your soul, or however you want to call it. It doesn't even matter. But your being was.
That's where I want to go.
Yeah, your being was literally like, it was doing this, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's what success feels like. And when I was in that life that you were talking about a moment ago, it felt like this. It felt like contraction. So I had two choices, and I've had to take this choice between these two choices a lot of times. Is like, okay, either you're going to contract and you're going to let fear guide you. Remember what I was saying yesterday of like a lot of people living their lives in fear, disguised as practicality, right? So it's this idea that we can, we'll just keep doing it because it's practical in a sense, or it's comfortable, even though it's not very comfortable. And we ignore the fact that instead of doing this, instead of feeling like our light is really shining really, really bright, it just keeps dimming and dimming and dimming. So just pay attention when something's going on. I just want to say this to anyone who's listening, who's wondering, well, how do I find that? Because if you just start paying attention, does this situation, does this person, is whatever it is what the job, is it enhancing my shine? Do I feel this sense of open, expansive radiance, or do I feel a contraction? And the more you start paying attention to actually what's occurring, because it will be occurring also physiologically, when you start paying attention to that, they're like breadcrumbs. It's like, okay, this isn't it. Oh, this might be it. This thing, I'm feeling it, So I had to go back to that because that was too important. I didn't want to. But
society and the people around you will pressure you into the idea that they have of success. That's most people when they're like, it doesn't feel right. Nah, listen, that's amazing. You made it. You here, you have this, you have to continue up the echelon. When you're not feeling it, but everybody else is telling you you're crazy. Like this is this is our dream, all of us. Like especially you became the archetype of the power woman that feminism have been singing to all women. I mean, not me, but them. Like, been singing to all women, like, this is what you have to become. Like, free from the man, free from etc. And why, like, didn't you receive pushback from colleagues and from friends and from family of don't do this, don't live this, don't leave the, like, you're taking the private jet. You're in a private jet. Like, you know how many people wish they were even near a private jet, just touching it, and you inside all the time, and you're there taking your breakfast between New York and Tokyo, and you're gonna let all these go? Society will push back against you, like, with all its force. Even the people who want good for you will push back and tell you, no, hey, don't remove it, please, don't remove the mask. How did you find the energy in you, and how did you find the guidance to be like, no, that's not where I'm supposed to be, and I'm going? I know a lot of artists who are struggling with this. Like, they singing what they don't want to sing, or they want to sing, but they want to sing, but they're scared of the adventure. What made you choose the adventure? Are you a special type of person who's not scared of the adventure, or anybody can do it?
Just like I told you yesterday, I am scared. I've been scared so many times to die, because literally you're dying. You have to die to who you were. You have to be willing at least to die to who you were. You have to be willing. And that is the scariest thing that a human can do. You gotta be willing to die to all of it. And for me, every time I've died to an identity that has defined me, or that I've used to define me, or that I've used to feel a certain way, every single time I've chosen to die to it, I was reborn. And I'll tell you, the greatest one has been recent. It's been very recent in my life, the greatest one, because it's just like that. It's like the phoenix, right? It just keeps, and then then you're reborn. You're reborn into something else. But I'm telling you, yeah, it's the scariest thing in the world to me. It's not like I was born fearless at all. I'm actually the opposite of that. I'm the opposite of that. I was the cautious one. Like my brother, we joke about this. I got 4 brothers and sisters. I got two brothers, 2 sisters. And I was just joking with my eldest brother, Dave. We were talking about the fact that if he sees a cord, a rope that says you can't go past this, he will go past it. Okay. I, on the other hand, will stay like where you say I can't go, like you can't. I will like, if there's like a rule or a law,
you'll follow the law.
So for someone like me to do that, I will tell you, yes, anyone can do it, because that's, but I'm becoming that more and more. I'm becoming more like, oh, maybe I could go back. Like in this trail that I run in Italy by where I live, they closed it off. But there was this little opening and you could kind of go through, and I'm like, am I going to go through? Am I going to go through? And I know they're doing construction. I'm like, I'm going through, because I needed to go and run. So, and I just want to say something. I really hope this isn't going to happen. I might need to just quickly grab my battery. I am so sorry, but I think this might cut out. I know we only have a few minutes left anyway. I got to catch a flight. I gotta leave here in a few minutes.
I don't want
questions. It to just, fade out. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you can catch your battery. Just one question.
Catch my battery. You asked the question. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you. Right.
So how did you? I'm gonna say it loud so you can hear me from out there. How did you do it? How did you go? Like,
how did I go?
How did you leave everything? How did you leave everything behind from your what's the did you work at different companies or just one?
I worked I hope this doesn't unplug something important. Okay, just a light, perfect. I worked in many different companies, and no, I didn't work inside many different companies, but I have worked for many companies after leaving. So I worked for Vanity Fair Corporation, and I worked for a number of the different brands. And before that, I was at one other corporation, and when I started out in corporate, I had no experience in corporate, and they were like, well, you have no experience, so, but you have this academic background, you went to the Sorbonne, I went to the London School of Economics. So I was like, I did my postgraduate work there, and they're like, you have this education that's just formidable, but you have no experience. I'm like, I will clean your toilets. That's what I told them. Wow. I said, I will clean your toilets. I just want to be here. I want to be in this environment. And I still remember the woman who was interviewing me. Her name was Giovanna Bobo. And she said, we already have someone for that position. And I was like, oh, damn, girl. Damn. She was the epitome of like the woman who has gotten there and like forgets that she can be nurturing. She can be loving. Yes. But she was cool. She was cool. I got to know her.
Cool, but cold.
But she was like hardcore. I'm not, whatever. So I was working for those corporations, and then when I set out on my own, actually the first client I wanted was Universal Music Group, and it was the first client I got when I started my first business. But I've worked with a number of different brands. I've worked with a lot of different brands on different strategic projects and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but I think, yeah.
How did you leave? How did you become what you are today? And and importantly, financially, Did you lose, or are you much better?
Much better.
Look at that.
But I wasn't.
Good
But I
girl.
wasn't much better at the beginning. I had to take that leap of faith. But I'm way, way, way better now than I was then. That's for damn sure.
Look at
And I
that.
was doing pretty well then, but I wasn't at first. You know, I had to build
To
my-
rebuild from scratch.
Yeah, I had to build who I really was, and that was a scary process. But it was, and it went through. And I would say seriously, I would say only fairly recently am I 100% me. Like before,
Wow.
it was always like bringing in little bits of other people's stuff or whatever, and using the techniques and the blah blah blahs and the whatever the tools. Now I'm like, no, screw all that. Like I don't even believe in that.
How did you do it? Like, okay.
Okay. I'm gonna answer you.
I'm a singer. I'm famous.
I'm gonna answer you.
Blah, blah.
I'm gonna answer you.
How do you do
I'm gonna
it?
straight up answer you right now. You ready for my answer? You ready?
Oh no,
for
I'm
it?
not.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Because you want. All right. My answer. The name of my answer is Gaia. Gaia is my daughter. Gaia also means Mother Earth and happiness.
Yes.
And at a certain point, I realized that who I was being was not an example for my daughter. Who I was, who I had become was not an example for the next generation. And I was like, this is scary as shit, but I'm going to go, and I'm going to go where I'm feeling, like I said, where I'm feeling that sense of expansion. Because you know what? The one thing I don't want for my daughter is for her one day to say, well, I stayed in this relationship, or I stayed in this job, or I did whatever because I thought I had to. And so as scary as it was, each and every time I got out of the mold, like even with my marriage of 18 years, when I left, when that was ending, I was like, oh my God, I've defined myself by this relationship for almost 2 decades. Like, what am I gonna do?
18 years.
Yeah. So, but it was the next, I don't want to call it a leap. It was the next transition, because I would never want my daughter to stay in a relationship that was not mutually beneficial, because society says that you're supposed to do that. And I try. I mean, Lord knows I definitely, and we tried, and we just
Great friends.
transitioned. We needed to transition,
Yeah, well, when it's time, it's time.
Yeah, you either evolve or you die. But you never really die,